One of my big mentors in this space of the property management is David Tony. And he will tell you that your tenant, which actually we call residents, we don't call them tenants.
Good call.
Residents, and we are housing providers, not landlords. Our residents are our biggest asset, not the home. The home doesn't pay us anything. Actually, the home costs us money.
Fair. Yeah.
Standing there alone, we have to pay to keep it there empty. Mm-hmm. The resident that lives there is the one that pays us. So their job is to pay us, take care of the property, have good communication, and be a good neighbor. Those are our 4 rules at the very end. And I tell them, if you do these 4, all those other pages are just going to work automatically. Yeah. And the number 1 is actually to take care of the property. Number 2 is to pay us. Because they can do way more damage to a property than the amount they owe us for rent.
It's Bootstrapped Unicorns, and I got a story to tell you before we get into this episode. I go out to the hallway to let Adrian in, and he's just talking to my neighbor like they know each other. I'm like, there's no way our next guest knows people in my office, but don't you know, they follow his content and interact with him because he's kind of a thing. You'll see. But I'll even go further back with how I am in awe of Adrian real quick. I go to a Gary Vee event eons ago, and there's this guy in the hallway in a bright yellow shirt. I think it said, my wife buys mobile homes or something like that. And I'm like, I got to ask this guy questions. So I go up. The clickbait worked. I took it. I went and started talking to this guy, Adrian, in the hallway. Cool as can be. And I'm totally impressed. And then somehow I never end up connecting on social. Like I failed. I should have connected and I didn't. But then creepy Facebook starts suggesting that I know a guy. How, I don't know. And so I end up reconnecting with Adrian this month. And he goes, who are you? How do we know each other? And I'm like, well, this may sound weird and creepy, but Facebook suggested we know each other. And we do because we talked for 9 minutes in a hallway at a Gary Vee event. And I was wearing a loud jacket. And he goes, oh, I remember you. And now here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Adrian Smude. I'm saying that right, Smude?
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. Okay. And Adrian, your wife buys mobile homes. That shirt has always stuck with me as some of the best branding because it got me. I had to ask, can you start there? Like, what the heck do you do?
I buy mobile homes. Well, what do I really do? I wear a shirt. I wear a neon yellow shirt. Typically, if I'm in my buying area, it says my wife buys mobile homes. And so I'm a billboard.
So you're a walking billboard, and I bit because it was so interesting marketing. So I wanted to find out about the guy who's marketing, especially at a Gary Vee event too, because I don't think if I'm profiling, most of the room has mobile homes to sell you. However, you're there marketing nonetheless. And so I clicked, but who's clicking on your clickbait of life and why? What's the construct there?
If I'm wearing that shirt, literally everyone I make eye contact with. When I'm on a plane, the stewardess says hello right away. And then she may skip the other people in front of it. Or they're chuckling as they're kind of reading my shirt. I wish I had the perfect clickbait shirt like this for the branding of the education side, the Lifestyle REI. And I think about it a lot.
Yeah.
I also wish I could say I'm this branding expert that created this My Wife Buys and knew it was going to work. It's one of those examples of throw mud at the wall and something starts sticking and you make some adjustments to it and it keeps sticking and people like it, you get feedback, and then you run with it. And that's exactly how the shirt started.
I love this. I mean, I have a similar story with these jackets, right? So I go to conferences and I'll wear these. And a true story, I was at a John Maxwell event for 5 days, and they do the feel-good video at the end of the thing. 60% of the video is me with people, and John, he even commented from the stage because he knew my name. He goes, well, apparently Josh is the celebrity here. And yeah, I mean, that was something. So branding by clothing.
Yep. Which is one reason I remember you.
Yeah.
Is the jackets. I have some fun jackets, but they're more like the Christmas, but I have to wear it over the shirt still.
Yeah, right, because it's your brand.
Yes.
That's amazing. So you mentioned, you teased an education portion, and some of this today I hope is educational for the audience, because you do something that I know it's not terribly unique because other people on the planet have figured out how to do something similar, I'm sure, in other cities. Yet, I don't think anybody is really talking about it in the way you are. And so, like, first of all, How to Buy Mobile Homes is a book that he wrote. It's an Amazon bestseller. And I'm guessing, if I'm going to judge this book by the cover, It's about how to buy mobile homes.
Yes, I kept it very simple.
Yeah, you know what? The KISS principle really works very well. So, first of all, this is full time for you. This is your life.
Oh yeah, this is my life. And I designed my business to satisfy my life, not for my life to serve my business.
Nice.
Doesn't mean I don't work over 40, 50 hours some weeks, but I don't consider this work right now.
Right.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
But some people might consider this work.
Sure.
This is fun. Like, I wake up excited. Like, I get to go to Orlando and do a podcast interview in person.
Yeah.
'Cause a lot of times, you're just on Zoom and there's no feel and everything on it.
That is one of the benefits of this joint, right? Yeah. So you are lifestyle entrepreneur first in that regard. Without, pulling your profit statements out, are you living a life that you're comfortable enough in that you say, I've made a good decision?
Of course. I could stop all this education side and let my predictable rentals, my mobile homes with the land, pay for my life. Now, I can't go fly around the world, and sip on margaritas and sit on the beach all over the world, different day, different place. But I could just hang out and live a great life. But I want more because I love it. So the education side is a passion business.
Right.
But the mobile homes pay for my life.
That's amazing. So, and the education side is on mobile homes.
Yes,
it's
on
you're
exactly
teaching
what
other
I do.
people. Right. Okay. So you're an expert because you figured it out. You could live a completely comfortable life, and that's proof that you're an expert because we know you figured it out. How many homes do you have?
We take care of about 30.
Okay.
As I buy a nicer one, I sell off one that I don't like as much. And nicer is not always like the look of it. It's the amount of money it brings in, the headache it brings in, how far away. Like that. It's not just the looks of it.
Got it. So 30 is doing well for you. How many transactions do you think you've done to buy and sell and get the portfolio that you've got right now?
I'm gonna go with probably around 200-ish.
Oh my!
I did when I was writing the book. Actually, I went through my entire 20-year career as an investor and timeline and mind mapped the whole thing, and then went through every single deal. It was a lot of fun at first, and then it became a little tiring.
Yeah, about
how'd you find it? And I needed to do that in order to then, when writing the book, just go pick one.
Okay.
Oh, this fills in the gap right here, and I already had all the information. So I have the timeline, which I'll update again into this year. I kind of do it every year. So I remember I was somewhere in that range. I don't think I quite hit 200, and I've slowed down a little bit. I'm not the big volume guy.
Right.
4 year right now, that's good.
Okay. Do you have intentions of growing? Right now you've got 30-ish. Do you want to, in 10 years, have another, 20 to 40 units?
Yes, I have intentions of growing, but I don't judge it on the number of units. It's the amount of time and the amount of net income coming in.
Got it.
Those are my two metrics. Net income and amount of hours worked. So I want to work less hours and make more money.
Right. Okay.
So it's most likely not to get to that magic number of 100.
Right, okay.
And investors, I had that number at first. So I probably won't, because then I'll have to have more staff. I'll have to have more expensive systems and stuff. When I can just get better deals or more passive deals that don't require all that make me the same money.
Yeah, I know that makes a lot of sense, which I find really interesting because, of course, there's a lot of people who are, especially in the self-development crowd, which you and I are both kind of tangentially a part of, the self-development crowd, big, hairy, audacious goals. I got to aim really high and put a number on it and pursue that. This is not quite counter to that, but it doesn't quite match the big, hairy, audacious thing.
I'll give you an example of 2019. That big, hairy, audacious goal was to go on 12 vacations in 12 months.
Wow.
So that means I got to make more money.
Yep.
And it also means I got to run my business from my phone.
Yeah.
And that was the underlining big goal, is to be able to be geographically free.
Okay.
That was like what I really wanted. So that was the big goal. The side effect is I made more money.
Yeah.
And I ended up going on 13 vacations in 13 months or in 12 months.
What was the best one?
Oh, I don't know. That's a hard question for me because I absolutely love traveling and I find a lot of fun in each different city, or I actually like nature and forest.
Okay.
I'll say the most, but there's something unique I like about everywhere I go. That doesn't mean I want to go back and live there.
Sure.
But I find value in everything.
That's cool. I've had a similar experience doing documentary work across North America where I'll end up in a place I never expected to be, middle of Iowa, cow country, lots of corn, and I discover a small little city that's kind of up and coming and hip. And I go, oh, you know what? My family could live here. These people are cool. And for me, it's usually about the quality of people, not the quantity, and it's not the venues and the events. It's like, that's a real person. I could have a beer with that person. Yeah. And so that to me marks a place that's livable and therefore travel toable. Yeah.
We just spent about 13 weeks based out of Maine, Old Orchard Beach, and coast of Portland, Maine.
Okay.
And we traveled around through New Hampshire and everything. But that was the feeling. It's like, man, it's a lot slower pace. It's quieter. People say yes and please and thank you, and no one's speeding on the road. Like, I'm going 8 over and I'm speeding.
Wow.
Like, you haven't seen that. You see that in the right lane here.
Right. Really? Yeah. Well, and I find myself being that guy who's like, I'm doing 15 over right now, and I'm grumpy that somebody's only doing 10 over. And then somebody breezes past me doing 40 over, and I go, well, at least I'm not that guy.
Yeah. It was a refreshing feel, and it was like, well, yeah, maybe I do really like this. Now, I don't want to move to Maine, but I was like, this is a lifestyle I think I do want. A little bit slower pace.
So with location freedom, I don't think I'm hearing you say that your buying area broadens with location freedom, just your lifestyle and travel area. So where have you chosen to buy? What's your strategy? I guess that's the question is, you have to have a strategy.
Now I do.
You didn't.
No, I was a shiny object investor. Like, who starts out with a really good strategy? No, some really smart people do, but I didn't.
Okay.
I was a shiny object, but I did pretty quickly get to a 30-minute from home. So home is Plant City, Florida.
Okay.
Winter strawberry capital of the world.
That's right.
30 minutes from there. Why? Because I heard a lot of my mentors say that they started bigger and slowly got smaller. Some of them were down to 15 minutes. Some of them were in one little tiny city or one neighborhood. They got smaller and smaller. And part of it was like, all right, well, why am I going to do that long learning lesson? But the other reason is it was my first wholesale deal that I had to cancel the contract on. Super scary. And I was driving an hour and 15 minutes each way.
Ooh.
And I went out there like 5 or 6 times. Actually, at one point I was going to buy it, and then I was like, no, this isn't for me. But I was like, this sucks. And then I was thinking, well, if I go an hour and 15 minutes that way, and I also had one to go that way, yeah.
Right.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want it. And I had one day, I have 30 minutes there. One day that I had to go 30 minutes, 3 different directions.
You're on the road all day.
And I didn't like that. And I was like, 30 minutes is the max, actually. And my coach and my wife at the time were both saying, well, we were struggling to find, we'll say, some deals right then. They're like, well, could you just go 10 more minutes? I was like, you start driving. They both showed up. So you have to maybe search a little harder, and maybe you just have to be a little pickier or move. I wasn't willing to budge there. Now, my friends in Wisconsin, 30 minutes might be their neighbor. Right. So they have to go a little bit further out. So I am a little fortunate in our area. We have enough mobile homes, enough deals, enough people that need help, enough volume moving that I just be picky, and that is my buying diamond. Yeah.
Interesting. So I heard wholesale. And it strikes me that, so there's going to be a lot of real estate people listening to this episode. In fact, I promise you I will share it with the real estate crowd. And we know they're going to want to know what you know. So coach me on this. So wholesaling, first of all, what does that mean for maybe the people who are very new to it? And what are you doing there?
Well, going to a seller that needs help, not a seller that just wants to sell their house. I actually have a distress.
Right.
Getting the contract and then selling the contract to another investor that is going to close on it and bring all of the money. This assignment word is really selling the contract.
Right.
To get a little bit more legalese into it.
Are these tax contracts, tax issues?
No, it's the contract between you and me. You're the seller, I'm the buyer. I say, I'm going to buy your property.
Okay.
We're going to agree at $100,000. And then I'm going to go over to the investor that's going to close and say $110,000. So you can buy this contract for $10,000.
Got it.
And I do a little bit of that. Honestly,
but you don't own the home after that.
I don't own the home, and I never had.
This is arbitrage. You are brokering a deal, and helping to make sure that this person gets out of their situation.
Now, I am not licensed, so I would not use the word brokering the deal because it can get a little muddy in the licensing world.
Sure.
But I do have the means to close on it if the buyer that I'm going to assign it to can't do it.
Got it.
I do have the means.
So you get into a situation knowing that if something blows up and you're held responsible, you can follow through.
Yes. And I do very little wholesale. Actually, I don't think I've done it in a few years.
Okay.
It's a tool I learned. Personally, I think it's difficult, and everyone loves to start there. But as a wholesaler, a good wholesaler, you have to know how to negotiate. You have to know how to go walk in there. You need to know what an end buyer that's going to fix and flip it. So you got to know those numbers. You got to know the end buyer that's going to fix and rent it. You got to know those numbers. That's 3 businesses you just had to learn. When you're starting out, that's difficult.
Yeah.
But I actually think it's pretty difficult, the wholesaling world. I think it's a great tool to learn because whenever I go and talk to a seller, we'll be talking and I'm hearing the numbers, I'm hearing the story. I'm like, this just doesn't fit for me, but I can still help Mr. and Mr. Seller out by giving it to a friend. And then I make a little bit of money in between.
Got it. Okay, so that's not common for you. And was it ever common? Were you doing a lot of that at one point?
I had the goal of it, like a lot of
Sure.
investors, but no, I don't know if I've done maybe 3 or 4 in a year.
Okay.
It was never, and I've never had that $10,000 wholesale fee. I think my highest is $8,000, and a lot of people will look down on that, like, oh, that wasn't my common one was $2,000, because my goal has always been to buy and hold, buy and rent, long-term, predictable, slow, boring money.
Got
I
it.
want that money that just comes in every month. I don't like big chunks of money, because then I gotta go put it to work or I have to do something with it.
Right.
It runs out. A check that comes in every month doesn't run out. It's here forever.
Yeah, oh, I get it. And so you've got all these checks coming in every month, and when you're buying a home to hold and rent, are you ever financing these? Are you self-financing? Are you buying them out? And then actually an important aspect of this, and I know I don't know what I'm talking about, so you're going to have to help me a lot here. I know a lot of these properties are mobile homes on rented/leased plots of land. And I don't understand that dynamic. I've never personally had to deal with it, but I bet that factor's huge in your world.
Yeah, let's get with that first. We probably should have backed up and started that 10 minutes ago just so the people aren't lost. So the mobile home world, there's 3 main ways to invest in mobile homes. You own just the home, what you just said, lot rent. You own an aluminum box, and you pay someone lot rent every month. Or space rent, in some areas call it land rent or land lease. But you only own an aluminum box. Lowest dollars to get in real estate. It is a really, really, really high return on your investment, but you don't make any rules. Person that owns the land, they make all the rules. So that's one strategy. And I've used that. It was really good for momentum. Now you can own the whole mobile home park. It's another one. Lots of big zeros. Makes for great Instagram pictures.
Oh, I bet it does.
But Wall Street got in there years ago. And I don't know about you, but Wall Street has way cheaper money than me.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I get it.
So the prices have gone up. The competition has gone up. Also, there's a lot more government regulation in that space. There's actually more and more news stories that are framing them to be bad people that are starting to hit. So that's another way. There's 2 main ways to run a mobile home park. You can own everything, all the homes, the land, everything. You own a flat apartment complex. Or you can own just the dirt. People pay you that lot rent every single month. And then you own a big parking lot. If you haven't noticed, I like to be a little bit lazier investor, so that model sounds a little bit better to me. And you can have a combination of the 2. Mobile home parks are no longer in my vision to be actively invested in.
Okay.
And now I stick with a single unit. It's a middle ground. Single unit with the land. This is a single family world, a real estate transaction. You own the dirt, you own the home. And I don't care what year it is, just think of a normal single family neighborhood, but instead of it being made out of concrete blocks or made out of wood, it's made out of a mobile home that was transported there. So that is the 3 main ways to invest in them. So what do I like the best is that middle one. It's the most hidden. I get the control because I own the land.
Yeah.
I get really good return on my investment. They're recession resistant. All 3 of them are recession resistant. And it's hidden. If there's not many people after it, I have to do less work and less marketing.
Right.
I like those. I like that a lot. So then let's back up to the financing part of it. There's a very important year in the mobile home space. June 15th, 1976. It's not my birthday. But that year is a year that the federal government, HUD, stepped in and they said, we're going to make a standard of these things. Before that, like every state kind of did their own thing. And it's a good time that the federal government stepped in. And it got rid of the aluminum wiring, brought it into a standard. Like I joke around, they were made out of toothpicks before that. So that year, no bank's going to go older than that at all. I've never found a bank older than that year. So let's go from there all the way to the 90s. Mm-hmm. I really, if you're going to go to a bank, go to a community bank, credit union, something small, local. You're not going to get Bank of America on any of those. You're not going to get any of the big name banks. They don't do it. They don't understand them. They don't want them. Now, how do I do most of mine? I don't use any banks. I am bank free since April of 2022.
Wow.
I don't use any banks. I like humans. I like to know where my money is going. It feels a little bit better when I write that check. Really I'm clicking online, but when I'm clicking online, it's going to a person. Like I know Brian's retirement story. I know Kevin's kids that it's helping out. Like that feels a little bit less painful than Bank of America or Chase. Like you're just going to the stockholders. So it just is a little bit of a feel. And then also, if I got 3 deals today, I'm a few emails, text messages, phone calls away from funding them. It's faster, it's easier. And now the private money world has not been talked about a lot because the last decade, no one's needed it. I mean, banks have been the cheapest way, easiest way, and real estate's gone straight up, so no one's really learned it. I believe in the recession that we're either in, we're about to be in, the government's going to finally tell us the definition again.
Yeah,
when we
we're
find
there.
That,
I think we're there.
I agree with you. But people are going to need to learn owner financing, that's the other way to do it, or the private money, or they're not going to make it. Because everyone I've studied that's been through multiple recessions, they didn't use the banks because the banks stop. No matter what they tell you today, they stop. And so that is why I am very big on private money. And then owner financing is the other way.
Yeah.
So I like that there's a myth out there about mobile homes can't be financed. And I like out there that the older than that 1976 cannot be financed because no one wants to learn how to do it, even though I teach it. And there's a lot of other educators that actually teach it the right way. But if people don't learn how to do it, well, that just means there's less competition.
You'll buy older than 76.
Oh, yeah. That's how I made a lot of my money at the beginning. I still buy them today. I have a headache value that you can't put on a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. If it causes me a headache, I got to get paid a lot more.
Sure.
And those are a little bit higher risk. I mean, here in Florida, we have those hurricanes. So I will buy them. And I just bought one recently. And it's one of the worst properties I ever bought. But I'm going to make a lot of money on it. Okay. So I was willing to do it because the amount of money I will make is high enough.
All right. So hold on. I'm going to pause for a second here. The cover of his book has, at the bottom, a fairly funky looking property, if you can see that right there. So that funky looking property I was asking about before we went on the show, and I was like, ooh, will you actually buy something like that?
I own that.
Of course you do.
It came with most of its siding. Why wouldn't I? I'm still making payments on that.
So this is fascinating to me because something you don't know about me. I grew up in a real estate family. My grandmother was one of the, actually I believe she was the top broker in New York State from 79 to 83. When she passed, she had 81 rental properties, most of which I was co-managing with some family members. And I also ran affordable housing in large apartment complexes in New York for a number of years as well. So I've got some background in this. And the first thing that I would have been told from my very wealthy grandmother who figured it all out on her own is that is a hard stop. Don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. In fact, you might want a longer pole because you don't touch things like that for a variety of reasons. She would have actually been extremely hard on that purchase, yet you bought it and you're smiling. So I need to understand, like, what's going on here? Why does that make sense for you?
Well, I was brought up just like your grandma. Like, don't buy this. And I actually didn't want to buy that one. I was getting the calls for a little bit. I'll tell you, honestly, I went out to meet that seller to practice something I learned in class. That was my goal. This was a big learning lesson for me. It's for everyone. I learned something in school, or I say school, like education of real estate, not traditional school.
School of life / real estate.
Yeah, seminars that are genuine seminars teaching you something. I learned something there, and I decided, all right, I need to practice this. This guy keeps calling me. I didn't really want it. It sounded scary to me, as you mentioned. I saw like one picture. And by the way, you couldn't even see the mobile home. It was so overgrown. So we had to cut the yard down to even get to that.
Wow.
So I said, all right, I'm going to go practice this. And I go out there to practice it, and then he says yes.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, that's kind of going through my head.
So you said this. What are you practicing?
Yeah, what do I practice? I was practicing the owner financing, but not the word financing. This is a huge tip that I said. We're talking. We're just chatting. And finally, he brings up money again, and he says, "Adrian, I don't remember the exact number, so I'm going to make up the number. If you could do $15,000, I'll do it." And I said, "I'll do 15 if you can do it on payments." I shut up. Like how uncomfortable that was just now. It was really hard to be quiet. And then he said, "Yeah, well, what does that look like?" But that was the learning lesson right there of like to be quiet afterwards. For me, that's so difficult to not say anything right afterward and to use the word payments, not financing. Financing implies interest. Financing sounds complicated. It sounds like maybe we have to go to a bank and what is all this stuff? Mm-hmm. Payments is easy. He's like, well, all right, what type of payments are you talking about? So on this one particularly, it was $100 a month. $1,000 down, $100 a month. I didn't say anything about interest in there.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, he wanted to give me a hug more than I wanted to give him a hug.
Was he living in this?
No.
Okay.
He was not living. No. They were at least 2 years. And the kicker that why would someone do that type of deal? The title company knew him by name. So this is an experienced investor. But life changes. He was in his 70s. Or still is. I think now he's in his upper 70s. He kind of transitioned out of real estate a little bit because he opened a diner.
Oh.
And learned he loves the diner.
God bless him. That's cool. I love when people find something they love.
4 a.m. he's getting up to get to the diner to prep everything, to cook. And then he works all day there. And then he's the old school that actually works on it himself. Mm-hmm. So that's why he hasn't worked on it. So, and the other thing I learned after I bought it, I started learning, the neighbors treated him pretty poorly. Mm. They were mean to him. I never judged him. I never did anything. I just built rapport. I like to talk to people. Obviously, I'm not shutting up right now.
Right, no, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. Keep going.
But this is what I learned from this. That like, I just went there and treated him like a human being. And the neighbors were prejudiced against him, and they didn't like him and some of his views of him, and I didn't care. Like, I found it interesting. And that's why he financed it at 0%, $100 a month, $1,000 down. Wow. There's actually 2 of them like that he sold me. From an experienced investor, because I treated him like a human. We talked, and he wanted to move on to the next stage of his life. Actually, he kind of already had, but then he was getting code. Was kind of
it's in the way of him living a happier lifestyle.
Yeah. It's still something you just have to deal with from his old business. And,
so he owned them outright.
Yeah.
Right, so he could just take his time because he wasn't in a cash crunch.
Yeah, but he still has to pay the taxes every year. Yeah. That's not a ton. You have to worry if a kid gets over there and trips and hurts themselves.
Are these occupied?
Yeah. So we'll put some more numbers to it. Put $1,000 down. I think I put about $13,000 in it to make it livable, not pretty. Mm-hmm. Livable. We were very fortunate the roof was not leaking. Okay. The roof starts leaking on these older ones. This is the 1960s. They just start kind of melting. Okay. And they just literally the walls will start getting wavy and they kind of melt away. So we were fortunate there. Again, not very pretty, but livable. I think it's at $700 a month. Okay. We're talking about 15. Let's just round up to $20,000. Yeah. Oh, I have in it out of my own pocket. I'm bringing in $700 a month with a $100 mortgage payment.
Unreal.
That's one of the ones that got me real excited. I'm like, this works. Like, where are the more? Like, I need more of these. No one wants them.
That's fascinating, and especially when it's that old. My impression is, and you said, some of these older ones are built like toothpicks, or the framing is toothpicks. I believe it, and we've all seen, of course, in other parts of the country where there's a lot of tornadoes. Yes. When you see the tornado go through a trailer park, you just see debris, and that's all you see. Yeah.
So tornado missiles.
Kinda. Yeah, and so I look at that and I wonder about construction because I've been involved in more remodeling projects than I can count, and I look at standard single family U.S. construction with what they call them 2x4s, but what are they really? It's 1.5 by 3s, and And that's pretty hefty construction. And I understand how to hang a piece of drywall. And I'm trying to wrap my head around, like, what is it? I'm thinking your updates and repairs are almost a different set of materials and tools. Maybe not different tools, but at least materials than what I'm used to. And how does that factor in for when you see something that needs fixed?
So for me, I let the property tell me what I'm putting in it.
Okay.
This one, we did not put drywall. We did not put 2x4s. But we could have. We can put all the same standard stuff, go to Home Depot, Lowe's, and buy all that stuff and put it in the mobile home. But this one couldn't afford it because of the value wasn't really going to go up. There wasn't going to appreciation. The land, so I did buy the land with this one, 1/4 acre.
Oh, cool.
It came with the land. And it just wasn't going to appreciate. So the property told me it couldn't afford me to do a really big dollar rehab. Now, typically on my 1990s, the newest one I've ever owned is a 1999. So
Wow.
One day I'll get into the 2000s. But on those, yes, we'll replace, if we have a challenge somewhere on a wall, yeah, we'll replace the wall. We'll put 2x4s. We'll put drywall. We'll spackle it. We'll paint it. We'll texture it. And we'll do whatever it needs. Now, I don't fix and flip, but my buddy Mark does.
Okay.
And when you see the inside of his homes, you don't think it's a trailer at all. You don't think it's a mobile home. Whatever standard, he literally goes around every once in a while and checks out the model homes. And that's what he puts in his homes.
So, and when you say model homes, it's the new
build, sorry, yes.
The new builds,
Yeah.
And we're talking stick built, not new build like double wide
Exactly.
or manufactured.
Yeah.
Wow, good for him. That's cool.
Yeah. And you can keep up a mobile home if you take care of it, just like any home.
Yeah.
One of the worst ones I've ever been in was a 2015.
Really? Just
was-
not cared for.
Not at all. It was, everything was stripped of it, and the weather had just been destroying it for years and years and years. And one of the nicer ones I've been in was the 1960s because they kept it up. They wouldn't replace stuff. It was all new kitchen. Everything was new in it. So, like most homes, if we take care of them, they can keep going.
Pride of ownership matters. So how's your relationship with tenants? What is the tenant process look like? How do you find people to take them? Or do they know your name? Like, because you clearly, like with this one that you financed and you're paying $100 a month, you clearly kind of like the guy and you stay in contact with him. You've built rapport, your word, which is the right word, I think. What does tenant relationship look like?
I'm going to back up a little bit because some people right now are thinking about the word or term trailer trash.
Oh, yeah.
Some people are.
No, sure. Let's shoot that elephant.
That's one of the biggest myths here because Netflix and Hollywood have made it fun to poke fun of mobile homes or people who live in trailers.
Yeah.
It's a stereotype. It can be funny, but it's not always true.
Sure. What was that show with the meth dealer?
Trailer Trash Boys, I think, is one of the big ones. And
Trailer Park Boys is definitely a thing. But there was also Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yes.
Yeah.
I binge watched that in 28 days.
Holy
the entire
really?
series.
I still have not watched it because I will binge watch it in 28 days, and I don't currently have 28 days to watch a show.
Back then, I was really frugal, and we got the free trial of Netflix for 30 days, and that's why we had to do it in 20. That was that was in the growth period. We were frugal.
Good for
we
you.
were living off of just my wife's income and snowballing everything in this side of the business because we knew we wanted to grow faster. And so we didn't spend a lot of money for that.
So we need to get back to that because that's super instructive and interesting. But stick with the tenant thing for a second.
Right. So the trailer trash, quote unquote, who lives in most of our properties, blue collar handyman, handywoman.
Really?
AC tech, spackle, drywall, electrician, roofer, road construction crew, and they take pride in their home.
Oh, I like it.
The lawn guy.
Yeah.
So we have some with an acre and a half. And then, that could be a lot of work and about this and that. Well, a lawn guy moves in there and he thinks it's great because he needs somewhere to put his trailer. A lot of our properties have a little workshop shed in the back. They need that. They can't get that in an HOA neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
They want to bring their rabbits, chickens, goats, birds, all these animals, the barn animals. Now, I relate with that person because I grew up with all those animals. I grew up in an entrepreneur family. I grew up with, like I said, the goats and ferrets. My dad just bought a new ferret recently. I was going to actually play with them before I came here. I'm like, you may not like the smell of them because they have a really strong smell.
Do they? Yeah.
But so that's who I relate to, the blue-collar handyman, handywoman. But that's not the only people that live in our properties.
Sure.
We've had white-collar move in this year, straight out of college, working from home, IT. He wanted a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, fenced yard on a 1/4 acre, didn't care that the structure was a mobile home. He's making $75K a year starting out. That's not blue collar either. So it's the judgment thing, that the stereotype.
Right.
Now, what is my relationship with them? I have created a property management company that we mainly just manage our own stuff. I love that because I think the biggest thing that property managers, or really the small-time landlord, does wrong is they don't set good expectations. I didn't for the longest time. I pushed over the lease and said, sign, and please don't ask me any questions because I don't know the answers.
that follow-up there is a little scary but true, isn't it? I mean, sometimes you get in and you don't know all of it.
I remember being asked questions, and I was like, I'm going to have to find that out for you. I don't know. And I'd be like calling someone because I didn't know the answers.
Yeah.
But today, it's an hour and a half just to review the lease, and we will not sign it. And we go over stories of why it is. We want to set the really good expectations because we want someone that's going to live there a really, really long time. Because it's not good for us because we have to work when they move. And I don't believe it's good for people to be moving every year. Now, life changes. So in that scenario,
you get a job a couple
just
states
to
away.
have to move every year and the rent to be jacked up $200 and $300 a month, like we actually limit ourselves to not be able to do that because we know that that's what people want, security.
Right.
And we've had that people moving, and we ask always why. The landlord's raising it $300 a month, $400 a month. Okay, well, we won't do that, and we'll put it in writing. We set those expectations. Today, honestly, I am not that close. I am not the first person to talk to because I've learned that I enjoy the education side a little more, but I am still very involved in the higher level of that side of the business, making sure everyone's treated well and making sure we have good systems. You want to automate a lot of stuff because that's a good way to grow, but if you automate everything, you take the human aspect out of it, and then they just feel like a number.
Well, and I was wondering about that. I mean, do you have tenant number 28, or do you have Mary Jones?
Everyone's a name.
Yeah, that's great.
Everyone's a name. And there are times, admittedly, I don't know everyone's name now.
Sure.
But I have met them on Zoom.
Okay.
And, this year, I honestly don't have the time, but we're bringing a holiday gift to everyone, and I prefer to drive it to everyone. It takes a few days. Because some people I get to meet and see, and they never had anyone do that. This year we're mailing them because of the time factor.
Sure. But you're doing it, which is, I think, weird, frankly, in the industry. I was never, in all the time I managed properties, given the latitude to do something nice for the tenants. They were there to serve us. And I remember my grandmother could not wrap her head around when I was trying to get one of her places rented. She was struggling with it. She put me in charge of it. I spent $12 at the dollar store buying little things to make the house feel brighter. A fake flower and a fake vase, $2, done. Retractable mini blinds back then, you could buy a 4-pack at the dollar store for $4. I mean, literally, I had $4 into mini blinds because the blinds were trashed. They needed replaced. I installed them myself. So I have $12 in there. I remember my grandmother going, they're not worth $12. I said, Grandma, that's why you can't keep a tenant, right? And I knew because those people felt like crap. But I think she was the norm for a lot back then.
And unfortunately, I don't think it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
And that is one way we set ourselves apart. So one of my big mentors in this space of the property management is David Tony. And he will tell you that your tenant, which actually we call residents, we don't call them tenants.
Good call.
Residents, and we are housing providers, not landlords. Our residents are our biggest asset, not the home. The home doesn't pay us anything. Actually, the home costs us money.
Fair. Yeah.
Standing there alone, we have to pay to keep it there empty. The resident that lives there is the one that pays us. So their job is to pay us, take care of the property, have good communication, and be a good neighbor. Those are our 4 rules at the very end. And I tell them, if you do these 4, all those other pages are just going to work automatically. Yeah. And the number 1 is actually to take care of the property. Number 2 is to pay us. Because they can do way more damage to a property than the amount they owe us for rent.
Oh, big time. Oh, yeah.
So that's why that's a number 1.
How much did you just intuitively know to structure it that way, and how much has it been like a learning process over time? Because that's such a sage moment of advice right there. Did you pick that up early? Was that your mentor? Where'd you get that?
Oh, the very first house I ever bought, I bought it and I was renting out the rooms. Every room was rented out. The house hacking, I didn't know what it was, but I'll back up to a quick fun story. How did I really get started in real estate? I moved out from mom and dad, and I'm renting a place with some friends, and we were getting evicted, and then evicted again. And these evictions were for mainly parties. Pudding wrestling parties, spaghetti wrestling parties, mud wrestling parties, parking a motorcycle in the living room.
See, now the missing component to that was YouTube, because you could totally have filmed all of that and made your landlord a partner, and they would not have been evicting you. However, I think this was probably pre-2006.
Yeah, oh yes.
Yeah. It was just, you were ahead of your time.
And we did some of the jackass type of video stuff, but we didn't even think to like video any of this. We were just
Nobody
having
did
fun.
back then. Yeah.
Well, because we kept getting evicted, I bought a house. I was told, well, why don't you just buy a house? So I bought one. I signed a piece of paper. Back then, that's all you did.
Yeah.
It
was easy back then.
Yeah. So I bought the house. I moved my friends in. That helped me get evicted. So I finally understood what the landlord was dealing with. But I was living for free. And I was renting those rooms out. Now, eventually a friend would move on. And then I went to Craigslist, when it was safer.
Yeah.
And found someone to move in. Well, that's when I started learning some of this stuff, or just feeling it out. I have learned, I guess one of my skill sets, just how everyone has, is finding patterns and commonalities in people. And I always can't just like point it out like, oh, that's what it is. But when I start reflecting, I'm like, oh yeah, these 10 people are really successful and they're all doing this. That's whenever I start like realizing. A lot of it's like a subconscious thing, going into the mindset stuff we talked about. And so that was a big piece of it. Then I went to this guy, David Tilney. And one of my mentors at a local meeting, he kept telling me over and over, you got to go to his class. I went to it, and that was a lot of his stuff. It was a lot of psychology. He's a big fan of Simon Sinek. Start with why.
Yep.
And then I learned David majored in psychology. Now, I think his longest tenant is 28 years.
Wow.
Think of that tenant paid for that house. I mean, he's 2 years shy of paying the entire mortgage off. I think his average, I'm going to guess because I don't remember his exact numbers, are like 12 years is his average.
That's
and I started catching this. I was like, I was doing some of these things, and then other things I was like, that's awesome. That's kind of the way I think, but that's not the way society's kind of told me to think.
Right.
And so I've really moved that way. I mean, my system is very heavily on his stuff. And a lot of it is to treat people with respect. And it's easy. I learned this back.
It's amazing how revolutionary that is.
Whenever I had one of the closest to a real job I ever had, I was traveling around doing event marketing. And my friend and I learned doing that we kept looking really good. And we're like, we're not doing anything. And a few years in, we learned we just weren't screwing up. And other people were screwing up and not even trying to fix it. Now, when we did mess up, here and there, we already have a solution. When everyone else would just mess up, it's like, I don't know. And that's when I learned, if you either don't screw up, you are ahead. So here, if we treat them with respect, everyone else that doesn't makes us look great.
Right.
So it's really not hard to stand out of the crowd. Wear a jacket.
Yeah.
This could have been a black jacket, and I wouldn't have remembered. You put some polka dots on some lines and some little ghost on it, and I remember. I could have wore a black shirt.
But I remember.
Yeah. It's just a simple thing to stand out, and we can do that in all parts in a good way.
Yeah. So were you raised, are you wired for this in the sense that, you're talking about treating people with a certain level of respect, and there's an ethics and a morality that I'm feeling from how you think and speak about people that feels like it's probably second nature for you. Is this how mama brought you up?
Yeah, parents, I think that's the greatest gift they gave to me is high integrity and to treat people well. And I have talked with some friends. So I've had an office manager. She's actually moved on to, honestly, something better for her and her family, which was hard for us, both of us, her too. She can still call me right now. I might say I got to step out to help her out and vice versa. I do have a new lady, Karen, helping. But I've talked about it. She's been my biggest asset in my whole business because of the lifestyle she's helped me with. And I have some other friends, very key people like that. And one day I want to sit down and mastermind around, but I think the key piece is we found someone with high morals, integrity. You can't teach those. I can teach you how to run my property management. I can teach you how to make sure the contracts are right. That's a teachable thing.
Yeah.
To just do the right thing when under pressure and I can't answer the phone or something, you can't really teach that.
Yeah, that's a muscle you can change. I believe people can change.
Yes, I agree.
But I think it's a muscle that you have to build, and it's so much easier when you start it from infancy. Yeah.
And we keep encouraging that within our, I'll say our company culture. We're very small. It's 1 1099 local and then 2 VAs overseas. I never thought I'd have anyone, but I'm going to go on a little tangent on that just because we're on the right topic of it. VAs, so many people don't treat their VAs with respect. They don't treat them like humans.
Yeah.
They're just something they click and communicate with. We're doing the same with our VAs. I ship my VAs a bunch of promo stuff.
Cool.
And she still actually hasn't even gotten it because it's got caught in customs.
But she knows it's on the way.
Yeah. And like she just couldn't believe it. She kept telling me, no, it's going to be so expensive. The shipping is more than she gets paid for like 2 or 3 weeks because he charges so little. But I'm like, I know you're part of the team. Of course you're going to get this.
Yeah.
And
she will bend over backwards
yes.
to make sure her job is done for the only boss who would have done that.
Yeah. And I could have easily just like, nope, never seen a picture of this lady. Click, click, click. Just do this, and I don't care. I could have easily done that.
And that's how you lose her to the next opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's been with me since 2014, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a VA for 5 years who matches the description of your office manager, / almost director of operations. Mm-hmm. And she also moved on to better things, which was, basically being a stay-at-home mom for her 3 awesome boys. How can you compete with that? Mm-hmm. And so we applauded as she made the decision, and I just cried and sobbed in a closet as I realized how different and difficult that change would be. We still haven't fully replaced her. And, I think I mentioned before we were starting that I'm bringing on a new assistant, mm-hmm. and she will be a VA. And what's super cool is the company that I'm partnered with on this actually has a bonusing system that they're not very full, the VA isn't really aware of. But that type of incentive structure is there where we can't forget to do it.
Cool.
Which I'm really excited about. It might cost me a couple extra bucks, but I think from the pragmatic business side, it'll save for the long run.
Yeah. But
at the human side, that's care. Yeah, it's very exciting to me. So you said something a few minutes ago. It's probably longer than a few minutes ago now. And by the way, I have no time requirements on this, so we're just going to talk. You mentioned that your wife's income was the only income for a while, and you were doing things like smart free trials on Netflix to stay scrappy and financially sound, which is so cool. And I think from one question here is, how do you have the guts to pull everything back so you can focus on a big vision like you had? But 2, it sounds like she was on board. Can you tell me about the family dynamic of you've got a spouse who's willing to say ramen noodles are going to be gourmet for the next couple of weeks, months, and years as we try something? That seems like a leap of faith. How do you bring that up? Was this a shared vision? Was it your vision she bought into? What does that life look like on your way to what you've got now?
We did not have any shared vision or anything like that. We weren't that bright, I'll say, or didn't have the guidance or training for that. I was very fortunate that Aaron's dad had rental properties. She grew up on a Saturday, you'd go paint. And he was the old school guy that did almost all the work, if not all the work, on the properties. So she grew up not so much loving it, but understanding what it can do.
Got it.
So I was very fortunate because I know a lot of spouses, one's on board and the other one's like, no. We also were brought up both pretty frugal, cheap, whatever you want to call it. Frugal sounds a little classier.
I guess it all depends on where it's coming from. If it's frugal because you have a plan and you have a money understanding, great. If you're cheap because you've got an attitude issue, that's different, I think.
Yeah, and it was a blessing to get us where we want to be, financially free.
Yeah.
But it's been a lot of hard mindset work to then I could afford the steak. Ordering on the left side of the menu. So the food side, not the dollar side. That took a lot of hard work for me. And I'm still working on it. And I did a second major upgrade to my money mindset just last year. And so, she's working on one now. And that's going to happen forever. Yeah. So there's going to be another point that we're like, that's a crazy amount of money. I'll let you know. This is actually the first time I've said it publicly.
All right. You're hearing it here first.
It is so weird to even see. This is my limiting belief money-wise. I had a goal to have access to a private jet. And that seems like wasteful, rich money.
But you want to travel.
I want to travel, and I want the freedom of time. I don't want the fanciness. I don't care about any of that part of it. I don't want to have to spend the time of getting to the airport early. I don't want to spend the time of all the layovers and the TSA and all that. I work really well from all that right now. But when we have kids, I'm going to value that extra hour or different things. And I do fly. I fly a lot. And if I start looking, I'm like, I can save a lot of time. Just think about the airport parking and everything. That adds up, and that's the only thing that I can't get more back. So I look at that as I can buy time. I haven't fully looked at what does that cost money-wise, and probably a little bit is because there's a little bit of like, is it, can I do that? Like my mindset of money, and I don't know even what point I have to have a X dollars coming in to spend it there, not help someone else or put some money in a charity or something else. It does feel a little selfish, but it's selfish because it's the old mindset.
Right.
It's selfish in that mindset, but it's also the right thing to do because then I would have more time with my family.
Right.
So is that selfish?
Well, and you know, your working hours have $1 attached to them, whether you know it or not. And you do have to spend your time. You know, that word spending time, a lot of people disconnect that from money. Yeah. But I think actually a good entrepreneur has to reconnect it because every moment you spend is a potential moment that you could have done billable hours work. It's another moment you could have been researching another home to purchase to get into the portfolio. So every hour has actual dollar value. And I'm trying to think more about that in respect to that. I'm trying to carve out more time for people. I'm not good at that. Okay. And especially outside of my family, I'm great with my wife and kids. I'm very present, but there's people who need a little sliver of Josh that don't necessarily get it. And maybe in reciprocation, I need it too. And they know how I value time. And so when I spend that time, I like the idea that in the back of their mind, they understand that I'm actually spending business dollars on them. Not that it's a gift. I don't want it to be seen as a gift, but it's just like other people need to understand that time is so valuable that when somebody spends it, that mutual spending of time on each other, it's just a mindset shift. It's like, oh my gosh, we're not wasting time.
Yeah.
We're literally, this is an investment. I think that's the word I was looking for. You know, you want every moment to be invested, which by the way, Cirrus Aviation has the Vision 2 jet. Have you discovered this yet?
No, I've actually been a little scared to even look into this because of...
Okay, I'm doing it right now.
Okay,
no. Okay, you're with a guy who actually has a goal of buying the Vision 2 jet. Okay. It's right now I think it's about $3.7 million to own it. And obviously it takes probably a couple $100,000 a year to operate and maintain. So I've got to have that level of cash flow, and it's a big, hairy, audacious goal, right? And the reason why I want to be able to do it is for the same type of thing. There are people that when they have a birthday in the family, I would rather pack my family in, fly out there, we'll be there for the day, and then I got to get back to work. You know, I want more speaking engagements and more opportunities to pour into other people. But for me to be able to get there, I don't want to wait through TSA, get on a plane, spend my entire day with layovers. No, I want to hop on the private jet and maybe bring people along, give them experiences, invest in them. Like, have you ever been to a conference? Have you ever seen how it works behind the scenes? Let me come and train you so you can be the next person on stage. Like, all of that makes sense to me, but I got to have access. And frankly, I don't need to own the plane. Just give me the keys. Like, but part of me wants to be able to fly it.
Well, see, part of my joke is I just need a friend with one. So then I can just borrow yours or something.
Well, cool. Maybe we can figure that out together. I'm good. But maybe also, maybe you have a plane. Why not?
Yeah, and maybe that's a great question for me to ponder because I'm probably limiting myself.
You might be. And herein lies kind of the struggle for all of us, that there is a ceiling that we've given ourselves, and it's on us to choose to whether we break through that ceiling or not.
I couldn't even have this conversation probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Wow.
I would have straight said no. That's greedy. That's not a good thing to do. I can never do that. I wouldn't have been saying, but I know it subconsciously would have been, I'm not deserving of that. You know, the only rich bad people have that. And that's not true. But
your mindset's shifted though, because it's a tool now that you're planning on using for good things.
Yeah.
Like I don't need, and people are gonna be watching this and go, Josh, come on. And I'm like, it doesn't need to be on my Instagram feed. Yeah. I don't need to be, shuffling dollars out the door to prove that I'm wasteful with my money. No, it's the opposite. Yeah. I mean, it needs to make me money or free my time, which is making me money.
And you said to go to someone's birthday.
Yeah.
And that's one of the key things that actually did it for me, that was pushover. I took 7 flights to go spend a birthday with a friend.
Holy cow.
Now, he wanted to do a crazy 40th birthday. He wanted to go bar hopping by horseback. And believe it or not, in the U.S., insurance is not like that, so we couldn't even find a place in the U.S. So we went in the center of Mexico, and he found a place. So at that time, I was in Maine. So between layovers and all the flights, it took me 7 flights within 4 days to get there to go bar hopping
Yeah, you really
on
do need your own
horseback
plane.
for 4 hours. It was an awesome experience, the whole piece of it. Spent hours in layover and everything. And I'm productive at airports. I mean, I'm the crazy guy doing yoga in the corner at the closed gate, and stretching and reading and all my stuff. My life stays about, but it's still tiring.
Yeah, no.
I'd rather not do it at an empty gate.
I like layovers in airports that I don't know. So I'll go walk the airport and just see the construction.
See, we're the same.
Yeah.
I love walking airports.
Yeah, and just see what they did and how they laid it out, and people watch a little bit, and then I'll get down into my laptop. I'll write the best thing I've written in forever, and then, oh shoot, I got to get on my plane.
Yeah, I do exactly. I love walking airports.
Yeah.
People get intimidated by Atlanta airport. I'm like, no, I know the whole airport.
Yeah.
I've walked the entire airport multiple times.
The Charlotte airport for me is great.
It's a beautiful one. With all of the rocking chairs along the big glass windows, and I have trees inside, and they have someone playing the piano.
The piano is the feature for me. If I can get a rocking chair with my laptop out, so I can get a little light work done and wait for the piano guy to show up, and then just let him go for like a half hour. It's so refreshing. And then actually one of my favorite things in airports is to watch families traveling.
Okay. Because
there's just something like... The tired kids I always feel bad for, but every once in a while you'll see parents where they're bringing the young ones along and it's their first time traveling ever.
Ooh.
And you can see the eyes opening and you can see everything's new and just observing good family dynamics going. Like the business people, forget it. I don't care. But the families is really interesting to me.
That's cool.
It is.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, but it's back to your wife, because we started there. So she had observed her father doing it. She understood the value of it. But I'm really curious because, a lot of entrepreneurs, and the show is built for entrepreneurs of all ilks. I don't care what you're doing. If it's entrepreneurial, we want you here. There's going to be fear.
Yeah.
And you guys did something that could generate a lot of fear. But it seems like there was some team dynamic. There was something happening where you guys made it okay long enough to get to a point where you went, it's actually going to be okay.
Yeah, so there's 3 things in my mind right now I want to touch on. Is one, that Erin has been extremely supportive.
Cool.
I mean, that's one of the biggest gifts she's given me. She's been extremely supportive. She's helped in the business, and we actually worked her out of the business eventually.
Cool.
Because she just doesn't love it. She loved helping me, and she loved the freedom it started giving her. And she still helps in the manner that I just need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
An outside perspective, because she asks questions that are super obvious to her. And I'm like, I didn't think of that. And she's like, how could you not? Like, I don't know. Because I thought of this other crazy thing. And she helps keep me in line. Now, yes, we snowballed and moved stuff in quickly. I don't regret that, but I really don't encourage it. Because we don't know how long we're going to be here for.
Sure.
I had a friend pass away recently at 39 years old. And we just don't know. And that could have been me. And then I could have been saving for... That's not what Erin wants either, or my wife or anyone like that. Like, so at least spend a little bit on different things. Yeah. One of the fun goals that we had at one point is we had a list of restaurants that we wouldn't normally go to, like high-end steakhouses, stuff like that, that were scary price-wise to go to.
Right.
And when we had a closing, we booked within 2 weeks to go to one of those.
Cool.
And that was a reward, and I believe in the rewards of not being something you would normally do. Because of the psychological, the hooks in the brain and everything. Because then it's a real reward. If it's getting your favorite meal, that's not a real reward.
Yeah, you might have done that anyhow.
So we did that. Now that super focus, super drive that entrepreneurs like we have can also be very damaging to a relationship.
Right.
Because we're work. You want to watch something on TV? Yeah, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And 3 hours later, I'm like, well, I thought we were going to watch something. She's like, yeah, we were. And I'm saying that from the painful experiences of it. And I have learned now that, yes, it did help me get there, but it could have been 6 months, a year later, and we wouldn't have had so many reps. Now, I learned a lot of things the hard way.
Oh, don't we all?
Yeah. And
part of that's a guy thing.
Yeah, it's a guy, and I think it runs in the entrepreneur side, because I know some very successful entrepreneurs that's struggling in the same piece, but we know that a lot of traditionally entrepreneurs are usually guys. I think it's luckily shifting a little bit more.
I think it ought to shift where it ought to shift for me. I want men and women to chase their dreams and their personal values.
Yes.
And so if it's not, for whatever reason, a female thing, for whatever reason. I'm not even going to judge it. I'm okay with that as long as they too as humans are fulfilled.
Exactly. Like, actually, I want to be more of the stay-at-home parent than she does.
You have kids?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Gonna make some time for that.
Yeah, we're in a new journey of our relationship right now, and we are looking at where new home is. I never thought I'd leave Florida, and we are looking to see where that place is now. And I don't know where it's going to be.
So you are location freedom enough at this point that you're comfortable having your rental properties in Florida, but your day-to-day might not be here.
Yeah. And honestly, it hasn't been. We're in 2023 while we're recording this. I believe it was less than half the year I was in Florida.
Oh, no kidding.
And I don't think I was anywhere more than a month until just now, just before I came back here. So I was a few days to a week bouncing around, flying a lot. That's where that time thing started coming back. Now, I won't do that when I have kids. Now, I'm not going to travel as much next year, but I was still able to run the business.
That's cool.
And, you know, I built the right team, and my team is the people that work for me, but also just friends. You know, I just need some. I need some help. I can call someone I met at the arena. We're always networking. You know, a friend in the business. Hey, can you help me out?
Yeah.
And then I know worst case, I can buy an expensive ticket and fly home, or fly back. If I really had to do it, and I had a closing that did require me to be there, and that was the absolute worst thing. Is I could just buy a ticket, fly back for that closing, and then fly back. But we were able to manipulate it so I didn't have to.
Cool.
But it's like, we'll just say $1,000 was that what that round trip could have cost. That's not that painful.
Right.
I mean, it sucks, $1,000. I don't want to spend it.
Well, it feels like blowing it, especially in a virtual age where you feel like you should be able to sign digitally.
Yeah. But when you think of the $1,000 wasn't the flight, the $1,000 was the freedom to be where I wanted to be, when I wanted to be.
Yeah.
When I reframe it that way, of course it's worth $1,000 that I actually didn't have to spend. When I started reframing it that way, it's been beautiful and a lot less stress on me.
That's outstanding. So, are you going to do one of those things where you like keep a mobile home here so that you've got a crash pad when you come back?
So, I helped my parents find the retirement home. They retired entrepreneurs, so I grew up in that world as well. And
what did your parents do?
My dad's done a lot of different things. My dad's an immigrant from Argentina, so I'm not sure what people have studied on. The immigrants are very successful first-time entrepreneurs, like when they move into the country because of the just kind of work ethic. So I think that's where I got a lot of that from. He has had poinsettias, different types of flowers and plants. They had a garden center that then morphed into plants and statuary, then morphed into adding custom wrought iron. And then they kind of got rid of the plants because you can buy a plant from Walmart, kill it, 6 months later, bring it back and get your money back. So I was like, oh, that doesn't do good business for a small business. So kind of got rid of that, planted them all, like physically planted. And now it's statuaries and custom wrought iron. They're one of the only places that you can order a state gate that looks like trees. And I mean, they bring nature all into it. And luckily, my little brother took over the business.
Oh, wonderful.
And yeah, because I didn't want to do it. I mean, it's a welding business. There's a lot of it. And welding's hot temperature-wise, and Florida is hot temperature-wise, so you're combining two things, and I'm like, it just wasn't for me. And very fortunately, my little brother took that over.
Does he like it?
Yes, he loves it. He's much more artsy than I am.
Okay.
And so he loves just bringing the art together. I mean, my dad's done jobs all over the U.S. because there's very few companies that bring the nature art into the wrought iron.
That's really cool.
You know, there's other artsy stuff that's wrought iron, but it's the nature aspect of it.
I know somebody's going to be watching this and wish they could actually look at this stuff. What's the name of the business?
Metals in Nature. And that's another thing that my little brother and his wife Victoria are doing. They're bringing it to 21st century. You know, a lot of small business. Like, you know, I used to kind of run the Facebook, never really did much of the Instagram, so it was okay. You know, I'm trying to put my efforts into my business, but then also do some for them. And she's a much more expert at it, so they have much more videos and.
Good. They should.
Yeah. Because now what my brother has the challenge though is now he has to decide what he wants that business to look like. Just like we were talking about with our business. You know, does he want to do these big jobs all over the U.S.? Yeah, that's a whole other dynamic of staying local, or you know, you have to pay the bills. But you also have to fulfill yourself, because if you're working 80, 90 hours a week and have all this stress that it gets shipped, and as a person installing, what's the point of the money if you don't sleep well at night?
Is his stuff shippable? It should be, right?
Yeah. I mean, semi-trucks.
Yeah.
I mean, when you ship stuff like that, you build it, and then you build the crate that it's going to go in out of wood. I mean, you are building the box.
That's very cool. When I was a kid in the industry, I worked for a guy who was really close friends with Albert Paley. And Albert Paley is a welding sculpturist. Okay. And he was notorious for things like, actually, those gates would be something small for him, in the sense that he liked large scale. So I graduated from the Rochester Institute of Technology with my MBA. And right at the center loop for the school, there's like an 80-foot tall metal sculpture that he built. Awesome. And watching that thing get shipped was incredible. And there's a documentary around it. And so that's kind of what my mind went to is, and of course, Albert bills himself as an artist. Mm-hmm. Your brother and your father's company is functional art in my mind, in the sense that it becomes a gate for your property. It's an asset. Mm-hmm. It's not something that goes in a museum. It goes in the museum of your life.
Yes.
And but I remember how big and heavy those products were, and watching the cranes have to lift it. And it sounds like your brother's living some kind of version of that.
It's old school wrought iron steel. It's not aluminum. It's nothing that's lightweight or anything. It is heavy and labor intensive work.
And statuary, it sounds to me, is like that's stone statues for your garden space.
Yeah, and they are still doing that side of the business. They do buy from some of the bigger ones that you buy at Walmart and all the big box stores, but they also get it from the smaller mom and pop that have all the molds in their backyard, and that's where the key is. That's how they separate themselves from. Well, why not just go to Walmart? Because Walmart can buy way more, which means they get a discount. So they have a little bit of that, but it's the unique stuff that they really go after. Because why else does someone want to go there? Besides, people buy by price, but then when people get there, it's a garden center that is just beautiful. And so that's part of what they do, is they just put on events. Because you go there, you're going to fall in love.
Wow.
Like that's, a lot of our business stuff.
Are they in Plant City?
Yes.
Okay.
And we grew up right there. The house in the center of the property, 2.5 acres. So I grew up with the entrepreneur. I mean, I went and picked oranges from the neighbors' orange groves and sold them in the business. I went and dug up elephant ear plants, and my parents would let me sell them, and they would. So I grew up with that entrepreneur mindset, and
that's neat.
Yeah. Another gift that they gave me is just having that. I've had very few W-2 real jobs.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, it's interesting how when you grow up in an entrepreneurial household, it does rub off. Mm-hmm. My father and my uncle and my grandmother all owned businesses. Actually, both my other uncles. Yeah, so all of the uncles were entrepreneurs. So apparently it's a family. It's a DNA thing at some point.
Same here. All my cousins and most of my cousins and uncles on both sides of the family had some type of business.
Interesting. So going philosophy here, do you believe that people who don't grow up that way have a shot as entrepreneurs?
I think it's harder. I think everyone has a shot, without a doubt, especially in today's digital. I mean, this podcast. Yeah. You can learn from it, but it's harder. You have to shift your mindset. It's no different than talking about a jet. Starting, it's all the hard mindset work that today, that's where I spend most of my time, is mindset. I'm a huge fan of Hal Elrod, The Miracle Morning, and I do it every day. Wow. And I'm on probably year 7+, and I probably miss maybe a dozen max a year. The first few years I didn't miss it all. And nowadays it's about an hour and a half. That's my time. You don't interrupt me. I don't let meetings or anything. Part of the concept is you wake up early enough that none of that can happen anyways. Right. But if I do that, I have a better day, and that's business and personal. So I spend a lot of time, and I enjoy it. It's not that I have to do this. And there's some days I'm like, I don't feel like doing it, especially when I get off track. That's when it's like
getting back on. That's like dieting too.
Yeah. I don't feel like it, but I was like, no, you know what? Let me just try it the one day, and I'll do it. And then as soon as I start it, I love it. I love meditating. I meditate today for today, but I also know it's for 30 days from now, a year from now. Some really hard moments in my life, I've been able to stay calm or calmer than I would have without meditation.
And you mentioned that at the airport you'll just do yoga in the corner, and you're taking advantage of every moment that you have. It sounds like meditation, yoga, that's a practice that you've picked up some of those things for yourself?
Oh, yeah, of course. The 7 years, that's part of Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning is. So I put yoga as in the stretch, the exercise category of his thing, but meditation is part of it. And I work out, but today if I have only one item I can do, it's yoga, then like a Pilates style, and then a weightlifting or a HIIT style class. Now I make sure I get all of them in there because they're all healthy. But the weeks that I don't have time for all of them, it goes in that order of importance.
Interesting. And do you feel like that is part of the formula for you to be on a success track?
Yeah. My body feels better inside, mentally, and physically. All of it. And then
is
if all
that
of that
something
happens,
you're teaching out of this too? I haven't read your book.
I have a little bit in there. So what I teach mobile homes because it's the least barrier entry to get in. I could go out there and teach property management. I love the topic, but it's not that sexy. There's a bunch of people doing it. I could just teach real estate. And then I'm competing with probably millions of people out there.
Oh, yeah.
So I got down to my niche, which is one reason I got successful in mobile homes. So that is what I'm known for, Ely's Barrier. But I put mindset in all my stuff because I know that you can read the book and do it if you don't have any limiting beliefs, but we all have some type of limiting belief. So it's business, I believe, all business is super easy. Someone can give you the whole plan. If you follow it 100% to the T of someone that's already successful, it'll work. But we always change it. And we always think, oh, well, no, that actually won't work. Or, we have a different limiting belief that stops us from doing it, that perfect model. So that's actually what's in between our head is the hardest part of it.
Yeah.
So that's why I spend so much time there. And I'll say I slip it in to the conversation and in my teachings so that everyone's still getting the mobile home information or whatever topic it is. But I'm giving you the most important piece that you may not came for. If that makes sense.
So if somebody's watching this and they're like, okay, he keeps saying he's teaching and you can buy the book on Amazon, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to give this to you so you can write it down. How to Buy Mobile Homes. It's pretty on the nose. It's the big yellow book. The Unorthodox Guide to Capitalizing on a Hidden Niche in Real Estate Investing by Adrian Smude. So you have all the information to go find this, but you're also teaching in other ways. Where do people connect with you to learn more?
Lifestyle REI.
.com.
Sorry, yes, .com. That's where, and it's also, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook because I'm the age of Facebook.
Yep.
But my website has everything there. I am not on TikTok, which is a little funny story. We were talking.
What the heck happened there? And I know a little bit of the story now.
Yeah, I'll give you the quick learning lesson and pain point of it. Is we originally met at the Gary Vee. I think we know Gary Vee's a brilliant guy.
Oh, he really is smart.
And I was there to fall in love with him, honestly, because people had talked him up and I was like, never seen him. So we're there, and this is in 2019, and he says, you gotta get on this TikTok thing. I downloaded the app, but then it was like all about dancing. I'm like, nope, I can't do that, can't do it. Never did anything. And we know it happened in 2020. If I would have been on before him, or before 2020, I would have been one of the early. That's what a lot of his success we've learned from it. But it reminds me now, like, if something's a little uncomfortable, just do it.
Yeah.
Like you just have to try it, and some of them aren't going to work out, and who cares? I say who cares if you look silly. I do struggle with that.
Sure.
Like, that is one of my growth spots of, not looking good. I'm a high I. I'm actually not the high D like a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm the high I. And that is one of our blessings, but also struggles.
So people hear that, and if you don't know, that's the DISC personality assessment. There's D, I, S, and C. High I is kind of life of the party, likes being on stage, definitely likes people. Yes. You are clearly a people person. So I, to give a definition here, I am high D, high I, almost completely equally. The lowest in me is S. I'm a little bit C, like tangentially C. I have almost no S. Which is kind of the profile of an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is why we need a team to help us stay organized.
Thank God for good people.
I say you're just my adult babysitter. Like, and giving them permission and building their confidence up to actually tell me, hey, Adrian, you need to do this.
Yeah.
Because that can be scary from their role, but I'm like, no, I need you to tell me
Well, and
Because
knowing
it's
what
not my
high I
strength.
is, yeah, I mean, you want to go do things with people and be out and experiencing, which is probably why you're such a traveler. Oh, excuse me. It totally makes sense that you need to be redirected by good, trustworthy people, yet you're the boss.
And you know the ironic thing of everything you just said, I'm also an introvert. So learning that, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be at this event, this event, this event. I need to have recharge time in between. And for me, that's alone time, and a really faster recharge and better is nature. I love nature, love forests and hiking and stuff. So if I don't fit that in,
Yeah.
it can become very draining. And I don't want things I love to be a draining thing. So
Yeah.
I've learned that about my own personality, that as long as I fit that in, I'm good.
Well, and I think culturally, we're just starting to become aware of introvert, extrovert, where you are an extroverted introvert.
Yes, that's actually
Yes.
the term I was told.
Yes, and that is not rare. It is, and I think actually, so my wife is a total introvert. She's the complete opposite of me. Yet, last night we were having this discussion. Actually, no, this morning with somebody where there are extroverted moments that come out, and it's when she's built a good comfort base with somebody. And so I would say she's the opposite. She is an introverted extrovert, where the extrovert rises to the surface in the moments of safety.
Yeah.
And so I think it plays both ways, and I think it's a sliding scale.
We are getting the same people because Erin is the same way. I mean, she gets a little overwhelmed whenever I'm always wearing the shirt, or especially if it's the my wife buys, because then
She's the wife.
they go straight to her.
Yep.
And it's very draining on her. But when she's in her safe environment with her friends, she's the life of the party.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. But the outside people that she doesn't know, like that just becomes too much.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting. Maybe entrepreneurs pair well. You know,
Well, we need it. We need someone to slow us down some.
don't we? Yeah. Yeah, it'll be 2 a.m. She'll come downstairs and go, look, you're going to have 4 hours of sleep if you go to bed now. Yeah, but I'm having ideas. You know, like, and not that it's like the, mom thing, because it's not. We don't have that relationship at all. But she is right. She knows me. And she's probably the only person who can slow me down.
And I think it's such an important piece because we didn't learn this from the beginning, and we weren't taught it. We just slowly learned this dynamic between Erin and I, which has made our relationship stronger and better.
That's cool.
We went through some rocky times of it, but learning it and actually wanted studying ourselves and each other has, it helps the business, but it's helped our relationship. And we know if we have a better relationship, the business is going to do better anyways. If you don't have a good relationship, your business is
Right. Well, and what are you even doing it for?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, you didn't marry the business, you married the woman.
Yeah.
And so the business has to serve the two of you,
Yeah.
or it's backwards.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I
that's one of the reasons I'm shifting next year to travel much less.
That's awesome.
And that's a struggle for me because I have the success and I have all these opportunities, and to say no is hard for me because I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me because I want to help more people. And it's hard for me because I'm having the success, like I'm in the hockey stick curve of the success, and I'm gonna shut it down. But why have all that success if I don't have a good relationship?
Right. Well, and I will say, and we can talk about this offline, there are ways to take a lot of the education you're doing and build a program or package around it where it delivers a lot of what you can teach people without you being present. And then, actually, the consultant is always the person who walks off the plane. I was told that once because it used to be that back home in Rochester, New York, where I grew up, nobody wanted to pay me what I was worth, whatever that is. But I could fly somewhere and people would pay me 10x for the same exact thing that I was offering back home, and and it was interesting. And so it's a reminder to me that sometimes, especially as demand is rising and the hockey stick is happening for you, creating some distance between you, direct access to you, and the rest of the audience that wants direct access to you actually will raise your value. It's like De Beers diamonds. If they opened their vaults and let all the diamonds out, it would destroy the value of diamonds worldwide. They have billions and billions of diamonds ready, but they hold them back to artificially raise the value of the diamond. You can, not that it's artificial raising of your value, but to hold yourself back might be wise.
And I am doing that. I'm learning to do some of that, and I've been shifting that direction. Now, something I did do really well when I started the education side is I already believed in the vision idea. So a lot of people understand the vision board, but this is more like a life vision. So for me, it's a written out document,
Okay.
and it's what I want my future life to look like.
Very Napoleon Hill of you.
Yes. It is. I think that's more of the direction. I learned it from some different groups, and I got really good at making these. So I'm on my 5th personal one.
Okay.
And then I'm on my 2nd one for each business. Like every business has its own, but everything flows back to that. Those all have to serve and be in alignment with my personal. When I got to do the education, this wasn't like I have to go make money business. Mm-hmm. So I got over the mindset that someone will pay me for what I know. That was a tough thing for me to go through. And I went through that, and then I said, all right, I like this. I'm going to do it. So I spent a good amount of time interviewing a lot of people I look up to and mentors that are in the education world, and then spent time, all right, what do I want this to look like? And I actually crossed out, I do not want to do direct coaching.
Good for you.
I struggled with it. And then people kept wanting it, and I was like, I want to make people. So I just put a really high price.
There you go.
And as people book it, which I don't even advertise it much, I'm just going to raise the price, and it's not to, make more money. It's to limit the people that will do it.
Right.
And we also know if people pay more, they're going to take more serious.
Well, and that's the thing. Skin in the game is always important. I joined a free mastermind once because it was a dear friend of mine who was running it. So I thought, I'll support you. I'll come. And I did. I did consistently for a year. And what I found was there was a lot of rescheduling. There was a lot of certain people didn't show. The 12 people in the room looked strikingly like 4, and it's because the skin wasn't there. They're all high functioning, great entrepreneurs who, if they were each parting with $1,000 a month to be in the room, they would have been there twice. And it's only one invite. They would have found a way. Yeah. And I think that's for you too. Yeah, it's your audience, obviously, with skin in the game.
Yeah, and so I had to find who that avatar is.
Yeah.
Do I want it to be the brand new person, and I want to serve and help that person, but it's really the person that is stuck that has a few deals.
Right.
Which is exactly where I was whenever I found mobile homes.
Yep.
Frustrated where I was at, and I know we've jumped around a lot. And part of it is because of my excitement and jumping. I do want to swing back to, I don't know the exact question, but when we were talking about the dynamic of Aaron and I, of taking that leap.
Yes.
I had another piece I want to add in here, which is really important.
Do it.
I got to a point where I was very uncomfortable being comfortable. What I mean by that is we lived in a nice home.
Yep.
We had nice income. I could have gone out and got a regular job. We would have had enough, more than enough. We already had enough, but we could have actually traveled to have enough. But I knew I wanted something more. I could not have put in words what that more is. Now I know. It's helping more people, traveling more, and spending more time. But I could not put that words then. And one of the similarities I had learned of all of these successful people were they had this splat moment. They had a big fail.
Oh, okay.
They went bankrupt. They lost all their money. They did something basically they took a big risk, and it worked, and at some point it didn't. Mm-hmm. So my first mobile home, I got the lead. I said, you know what? I'm going to spend the rest of our savings on it. And I'm either going to splat and it's not going to work, or it's going to go up. I did not tell Erin this because she wouldn't have been cool. But that was my plan. My plan was either to fail hard or to really make it. And I made it. But that was it got me past the scariness of I'm going to spend the rest of our savings, $16,000. And I bought it cash without reserves. I mean, maybe we had a few $1,000s in there. But, for frugal people, savers, that's scary.
Sure.
But it also lit the fire under me that you gotta go figure this out now. You don't have a backup plan.
Burn the ships.
Yeah. So that was a huge moment for me, and I didn't tell her until recently that the plan I was partially trying to
How far in the distance is that?
Well, that was probably, let me guess, 7-8 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. All right. There's enough distance behind that. I mean, how was that conversation when you told her?
I just kind of casually told her, and
there wasn't like a plate of spaghetti thrown at your head.
No, and she's so supportive. I can't even say that she would have completely thrown it out the window.
Wow.
I don't know. It's one of the most fortunate things that I have is how incredibly supportive she is.
That's awesome.
She'll even put supporting me sometimes over herself, which is not honestly healthy.
I have the same thing with Shannon.
But she's it's such a blessing of how supportive. And it makes it easier. I think it's also undervalued or under talked about of we have this image to put up as entrepreneurs and successful, and we need that. As guys, we have a little bit of an ego,
sure.
Oh no, I don't need that. No,
we
we need that, and it's hard for us to do it without that support. And I remind her, like, I know it feels silly for you, but I just need that reassurance. Like, I don't always think I know what I'm doing. You know, like I am scared at times. And,
I know.
And she's like, no, you've always made it. I'm like, okay. She points out all the time, like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, give me that list again, babe.
Yeah,
I need to hear how good I am.
Yeah. And then I get into a little bit of ego, and she's like, no, I'm stopping.
Yeah, damn. That's really, you're a blessed man, and I think that's great. And I don't know that entrepreneurs watching this will necessarily be in the same boat where they have the supporter the way they wish we both are blessed to have. And I will just add that, your attitude about how you handle things and maybe your transparency to make sure that somebody who wouldn't be a natural supporter doesn't destroy you if they found out you were going and making big moves without them. I think the person in the relationship is more important than the business. So if you feel like you're at risk of not being able to take the entrepreneurial leap because of their reaction, not that I'm a relationship guide, but I would err on the side of involving them early and sharing your heart very clearly, because if you know it'll destroy everything if you fail, it really might not be worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if that person is not the right person, I now lean on my masterminds that I'm a part of a little bit heavier, and then Erin needs a short version.
Sure.
I need the long version to talk it out.
Yep.
Do that mastermind group, bring her maybe the short version, and she goes to some of them. But that actually helps. And if the spouse isn't on board at all...
Well, it sounds like she's not crazy about the business the way you are.
Yeah. I love real estate. She's an RN, and she loves helping people at their time of need there. She gets fulfilled there.
There you go.
I get fulfilled with real estate. And I think a lot of people don't get fulfilled with real estate. They want it to get to the benefits it gives, which is not a bad reason. I actually love real estate. I love the people I'm helping. That's one reason I love the mobile homes, because they're underserved people that need help getting out, and the recession resistant, the workforce housing space is where a lot of mobile homes are.
Yeah.
So I like helping those people as residents, and then the people that need to sell it that don't have a lot of options. So like that's one of like things that light me up. And I get to make money doing that, which is awesome.
Amazing.
But like doing new builds, that doesn't light me up. Doing a fix and flip, I have no care of a before and after picture.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. We need those.
Sure.
But it just
it's not for you.
It doesn't do anything. I don't even get happy or proud of it.
Yeah,
like,
my friend Derek Carmichael is all about the fix and flip. He wants to find a distressed home, and he wants to take ugly and make it functional plus, if not beautiful, depending on what the market will determine. And he's actually, he'll take hard money and very strategically work it for the 6 months it takes to get it to either a better deal with a bank if he's going to retain it, or he's going to flip and actually sell it. And you see the look on his face, and you know he's in his zone. And so that's beautiful for him. And what you do and the relationship build you have to build with people in order to have that long-term resident, not tenant, is clearly for you. Yeah.
And this is why we're not competition in the real estate world.
Yeah.
Because we're all doing something a little bit different and all have our piece to help the entire industry and everyone that's within it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. All right, so I'm going to remind our audience that you are an author of a very easy to read book, by the way. So, every once in a while I'll pick up a book and go, that's 6-point type. And this one, I'll bet if you buy this, you can do a cursory read in an evening. And then I would encourage you, a book like this, I already can tell it's the type of book that's got space to write in. This is not a book that you end up keeping on a shelf. This is a book that's a workbook. And so if you're going to go into the mobile home space, you've got to get Adrian's book, and then you've got to go to lifestyle-rei.com and get to know his content, because your success is going to be in getting around people who understand and have gone before you. And if you want to hire him, he's the fixer, he's the coach. He's going to help you figure out how to get from where you are to where you want to be. So Adrian, we are now friends for life. I can't believe all of this happened the way it did. It's really fun. And we'll have to figure out the airplane sharing thing. Yeah, that's the thing. Actually, true story. I did a partnership with the airport in Kissimmee for the local schools, so we can get kids on property to learn about the jobs there.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was super cool because I got on property to hang out with all the jets and all the guys who get to work on the jets. And we got, so there's a whole thing there. And so you and I are going to have to go over to the airport. So Sean, we're coming. We'll see you soon. And Jonah over at Cirrus, you are my boy. We're going to go and hang out with a Vision 2 jet because Adrian wants to buy one. And if he doesn't, I want to buy one, and maybe we buy one together. We'll figure it out. So we're going to go do some stuff. People, Bootstrapped Unicorns, I hope you picked up on... I am way better today than I was yesterday for learning everything I just learned right now. And I think you can be too. I'm going to ask a favor. There are a lot of people in real estate or thinking about getting into real estate who have heard about things that Adrian talks about, but have no access to good information. We just solved that problem for some people who need this. Would you tag a realtor who probably doesn't even need it? They're probably fine, and they're probably out selling single family homes, and it's great, but they probably know somebody who needs to understand this and needs this book. Tag them, give them a gift. It's the holiday season right now. The gift is their tag so they can see this and become better for having learned from Adrian. I can't thank you enough for coming out here.
Thank
you.
This was awesome. This has been fun. Part of my vision. Thank you for hosting it so I don't have to do any work. I come and talk and have fun, and you do all the work behind the scenes.
We do, yeah. Miller's going to edit this episode. Yep, it's going to be great. Yeah, and we'll make sure that you have access to everything you need from this.
Thank you.
So, all right, next time, guys, it's going to be a good one.